Now that Phase 5 of the MCU is officially finished with the ending of Ironheart last night, here's my picks for the best, worst, and most underrated movie and TV show in every phase of the MCU. It's kind of crazy looking back at Phase 1 of the MCU, just how simple and clean it is. Like, all you had is a bunch of solo movies of the heroes that all eventually teamed up in the Avengers film. That's it. Now, this is kind of a hot take, but I think my least favorite of Phase 1 is easily Iron Man 2. I think this movie is simply just way messier than the first film. You could tell they were kind of in a rush to just get this movie out as quick as possible with how big of a success the first Iron Man movie was. And I feel like having both Justin Hammer and Whiplash could have been good, but the execution wasn't there. It really should have just had one villain probably as the main focus. For the most underrated film of Phase 1, I'm gonna go with Captain America: The First Avenger. I see this towards the bottom of tons of MCU rankings, and while it's not like a top tier film, I think it's a really solid origin story for Captain America. Obviously everything between him and Bucky and Peggy, and just a really solid movie overall. And it's really close between the first Iron Man movie and the first Avengers film, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the first Avengers film being my favorite of Phase 1 of the MCU. Everything just came together in such a perfect way. This movie has great action, it's legitimately funny, the dynamic between all the heroes is just perfect. Moving on to Phase 2 of the MCU, again, everything's kept pretty simple here still. We got Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The First Avenger, Guardians of the Galaxy, Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. So a really solid phase overall. Some heavy hitters in here with movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America: The First Avenger. I like Iron Man 3. Avengers: Age of Ultron isn't great, but it's not bad. And I honestly think the first Ant-Man movie is really funny. The only obvious pick for the worst is easily Thor: The Dark World. This movie is just painfully boring. It's bland. They absolutely waste the villain of Malekith. It's just a complete disaster, honestly. One of the worst films in the entire MCU, not just Phase 2. For most underrated of Phase 2, I'm actually going to go with Iron Man 3. I legitimately love this movie. I think it captures a lot of the charm from the first Iron Man film, and I absolutely love the twist villain in this movie. I don't know why people hate that reveal. I absolutely love the entire final fight with the different Iron Man suits and everything, and just so many classic Tony Stark moments in this movie. My favorite movie in Phase 2 of the MCU, and actually my favorite MCU movie of all time, is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I think this is pretty close to a perfect superhero movie. The action's incredible. I love the more spy elements. Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson are incredible in this movie. And Bucky as the Winter Soldier is one of my favorite MCU villains. He's so good in this movie. Now, Phase 3 of the MCU is where this starts to get really interesting because we still don't have any of the TV shows or anything like that yet, but I think this is obviously the best phase of the MCU so far because it's just so consistently great. There's only like one or two movies I'd really consider just mediocre to bad in this entire phase. We got Captain America: Civil War, an incredible movie, Doctor Strange, Guardians Volume 2, and Spider-Man: Homecoming, all solid like 7 to 8 out of 10 movies. Honestly, I'm pretty close to a 9 on Guardians Volume 2, Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther, and then Avengers: Infinity War. Then you come out with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Endgame, and Spider-Man: Far From Home. Like, honestly, just being a Marvel fan during 2016 to 19 was honestly just peak. We gotta all accept we're never getting back to this level of quality in the MCU. Even if the highs are still there, the lows are way lower. And I'm going with a two-way tie for the worst film of Phase 3. The first of those two movies is going to be Captain Marvel. Now, again, I don't think this is a straight up like bad movie or anything. It's just, again, kind of bland. I think Brie Larson is a great actress, but in this role, she just kind of brings nothing to the character. Overall, I feel like they could have done a lot more with this different time period and everything, but I do like the dynamic between her and Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury in the film. My second movie that's tied for worst is actually Spider-Man: Far From Home. This is a movie I've always kind of been lower on, but I've rewatched it probably like 3 to 4 times in my life now. I like this movie less every time I watch it. Now, there's still good elements in this film. I think Jake Gyllenhaal was a good casting as Mysterio. Obviously, Tom Holland's always great as Peter Parker. The humor and tone of this entire movie feels more like a Disney Channel original film than an actual Marvel movie, and I know they always have sillier moments, but it just really doesn't hit in this movie for me. I'm also not the biggest fan of how they actually portray Mysterio himself outside of the illusion sequences, everything with the drones and stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of how they did that in the movie. I'm not totally opposed to Spider-Man having a movie outside of New York City, but I feel like you have to execute it better than this film does because it really just doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie to me. For my most underrated film of Phase 3 of the MCU, I'm gonna have to go with Guardians Volume 2. I used to be a hater of this movie, but on my last rewatch, I really appreciated this and think it's pretty close in quality to Guardians 1 and 3, honestly. Like, the humor does hit. I don't know what I saw the first time I watched the movie. Soundtrack's just as great as always. James Gunn knows how to give you some great visuals, great character moments in this movie. Obviously, the incredible Yondu scene. Now, picking a favorite of Phase phase 3 is pretty rough because a lot of these movies are in my top 10 of the MCU all time, honestly. Like Guardians Volume 2 and Thor Ragnarok are just outside my top 10. Avengers Infinity War, Endgame, and Civil War are all inside my top 10. But for number one, I have to go with Avengers Infinity War. I still can't believe how they pulled off this movie with so many different characters while also focusing on Thanos as the main villain. Yet everybody has their time to shine and legitimately great moments in it. The ending, of course, is one of the best moments in the entire MCU. Nobody saw that coming on the first watch. So many iconic moments from this movie. The action's great. It's just a neat, like 2-hour, 20-minute movie, and it's absolutely perfect. Now we're to phase 4 of the MCU, which is obviously a very messy and weak phase of the MCU overall. Like almost all of these projects I think are worse than things in phase 3 of the MCU, and obviously this was just a huge problem of them not having a fully fledged out plan for after Avengers Endgame. They probably should have taken a couple year break and came back. Good stuff like the pandemic hitting, obviously affecting different productions, and now we know that Bob Iger and Disney literally just forced Kevin Feige to make a million different movies and TV shows to have more content for Disney Plus, so they didn't even know what was happening in half of these shows, and yet they were still greenlighting them. Eternals is getting very lucky here because this is like one of, if not my very least favorite MCU movie of all time. This was the most bored I've ever been with a film. I admire that they try to do something different, try to go for like their Oscar bait MCU film, but I'm sorry, it doesn't work. All these characters are uninteresting. A disaster of a film, but luckily it's not the worst for Eternals. Because the She-Hulk TV show exists, this is still the only MCU project I have not finished all the way through. I think I only made it about like 4.5 episodes through, and I just turned it off. I couldn't do it anymore. It's just a pure comedy, and I pretty much laughed at 0 jokes in the 4 episodes I watched. Maybe when I hit 300,000 subscribers, I'll torture myself and fully watch through She-Hulk and do a full-on review of it, because I do feel like as this is kind of my thing, watching the entire MCU, I should see this show all the way through. I just couldn't force myself to do it. I was so miserable watching this. Underrated is pretty easily Hawkeye for me. This is what all the MCU TV shows should be like. You have one of your core Avengers or main characters that people care about, and you use them to build up the next generation of characters, like Kate Bishop as the next Hawkeye in this. The dynamic between those two is absolutely great. While I don't like the Echo TV show, she was a great side character in this. Having Elena pop up was a ton of fun, and I just love the entire like Christmas atmosphere. I'm always a sucker for movies and TV shows taking place around Christmas but aren't Christmas movies. And for the best, it's pretty easily Loki season 1. The only somewhat competition would be Spider-Man No Way Home, but I really don't love the first hour of that movie and everything with Doctor Strange. Loki season 1 is just great all throughout. Now before I get to phase 5, please take 1 second and drop a like on the video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really helps. So now we're officially to phase 5 of the MCU, which yes is now over with the ending of Ironheart, the Fantastic Four First Steps, Spider-Man Brand New Day, and Avengers Doomsday. The next 3 MCU movies will all be in phase 6 of the MCU. Obviously some very low lows in this phase, like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, The Marvels, Secret Invasion, Echo, just all very bad projects, but some also heavy hitters. Loki season 2 was great. You had Guardians Volume 3, Thunderbolts was a great return to form, Deadpool Wolverine was a ton of fun. Worst is pretty easily Secret Invasion, which was actually one of my most anticipated MCU TV shows when it was announced. I was like, I love Nick Fury. We're getting back to like Winter Soldier spy vibes. That's what they told me the show was going to be like, at least. Little did I know this thing was going to be an absolute disaster. After like the first 2 episodes, it completely fell apart. The entire Skrull Secret Invasion storyline was completely wasted in this series. Everything with the character Gaia becoming like the most powerful character ever was just so unbelievably stupid. Picking an underrated project's kind of hard, honestly, because I feel like most projects in this phase are like properly rated as just being great like they are, or just garbage. I'm gonna go with Daredevil Born Again because I know a lot of people were pretty mixed on this, and it's kind of a bumpy road in the middle, but I think the episodes that were done by the original Daredevil team, which are the first couple and the last few, were legitimately great and captured a lot of that magic from the original Netflix series, and this was one of the least watched MCU Disney Plus TV shows of all time. It deserved more than that. My favorite of phase 3 of the MCU comes down to 3 projects, that being the Thunderbolts, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Loki Season 2. All 3 of these projects are things I absolutely love. I give them personally 9 out of 10s each, and honestly on any given day my opinion of which one is my very favorite could change, but I think as of right now I'm gonna stick with Guardians Volume 3 as my favorite of phase 5. I'm not gonna lie, Thunderbolts and Loki Season 2 are really close to catching up to it. If you want to hear about the crazy new character finally revealed at the ending of Ironheart, click the video at the top of the screen, or if you want to hear about the latest DC drama about the new Superman movie, click at the bottom of the screen, and thank you so much for watching.